Hello, and a warm welcome to Reddit Echo.
Being 17 with a new driver's license is like being handed the keys to your own freedom. The world suddenly shrinks, and every back road, every forgotten lane becomes a potential adventure. For me and my friends in high school, our adventure of choice was a specific, and let's be honest, a legally questionable one. We were urban explorers. Our mission was to find the perfect abandoned house. It wasn't just about the thrill of being somewhere we shouldn't be. It was about claiming a space, a place where we could be loud, unsupervised, and free from the watchful eyes of parents and the mundane rules of suburban life. We had a few decent spots, a crumbling farmhouse on the edge of town, an old dentist's office with decaying chairs still inside. But they were small, known, and felt a little too exposed. Then I found it, the Motherlode. I passed it every day on my drive home from my part-time job. It was set back from the road, at the end of a long, overgrown driveway. It wasn't just a house. It was a monument to failed ambition. A colossal, unfinished shell of what was meant to be a mansion. No windows, just empty frames staring out like dead eyes. No siding, just the bleak, grey, weatherproof wrap flapping in the wind. And behind it, a vast, wild property that seemed to go on for acres, perfect for hiding a dozen cars. My heart would race every time I passed it. This wasn't just a spot. It was the spot. I couldn't keep this discovery to myself. I told my best friend Jake, and his eyes lit up with the same mix of excitement and mischief that I felt. We decided to check it out one summer evening before heading to the movies. The plan was simple, a quick scout. Just a drive-by to assess the situation. We pulled up as the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon. That time of day they call the gloaming. The long shadows made the skeletal house look even more imposing. I turned my headlights on, and the beams cut through the dim light, illuminating the barren facade. I pulled my car into the wide dirt and gravel clearing in front of the house, the tires crunching ominously. We sat there for maybe 10 seconds. Tops. The silence was heavy, profound. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It was a watchful one. I remember a cold feeling creeping up my spine, completely at odds with the warm summer air. "This is it, man," Jake whispered, his voice full of awe. But the awe was quickly turning into unease. "Yeah," I replied, my own voice quieter than I intended. "Let's get out of here." I threw the car into reverse, did a quick 3-point turn, and headed back towards the main road. It was a fleeting visit, over almost as soon as it began. Or so we thought. We were barely a minute down the road when Jake glanced in the side mirror. "Dude," he said, his tone flat. "That truck is right on us." I looked in my rearview mirror. A big, dark-colored pickup truck, lifted and imposing, was glued to our bumper. Its high beams were on, flooding my car with a blinding, aggressive light that filled the interior and made it impossible to see the driver. It was so close I could feel the rumble of its engine vibrating through my own car. "Maybe he's just in a hurry," I said, trying to sound nonchalant, but my hands were already tightening on the steering wheel. I sped up a little, so did he. I slowed down, hoping he would pass. He didn't. He just stayed there, riding our tail. A silent, menacing shadow. The main road was just ahead, a normally busy intersection. But as we approached, I noticed something strange. The road, which should have been filled with commuters heading home, was completely empty. Not a single car in any direction. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and cleared the stage. I signaled and turned right onto the main road, a wave of relief washing over me as I put distance between us and that deserted lane. The relief was short-lived. In a move of shocking aggression, the truck didn't follow us onto the road. Instead, it cut diagonally across the empty gas station at the corner, its tires bouncing over the curb, and pulled directly in front of me, blocking the entire lane. I slammed on the brakes, my heart leaping into my throat. The driver's side door of the truck swung open. Out stepped a man who looked like he was carved from granite. He was huge, with a thick neck and broad shoulders that strained against his t-shirt. This wasn't a random, angry driver. This felt deliberate. He walked towards my car with a slow, purposeful stride. My friend and I were frozen. Shitting our pants doesn't even begin to cover it. We were two dumb kids, and we had just stumbled into something very, very real. He reached my window and didn't knock. He rapped on the glass with his knuckles. 3 sharp, percussive taps that sounded like gunshots in the tense silence. My hand was trembling as I pressed the button to roll the window down, the electric whir sounding deafening. He didn't lean down. He just stood there, his frame blocking out the world. His eyes scanned the interior of the car, taking in our young, terrified faces. "What were you boys doing back there?" he asked. His voice was calm, low, but it carried an undeniable threat. It wasn't a question of curiosity. It was an interrogation. My mind raced. The truth that we were scoping out his possibly abandoned property for a party was a one-way ticket to disaster. I had to lie, and I had to do it fast. We were just turning around," I stammered, my voice cracking. "Missed our turn. Just making a U-turn, sir." He said nothing. For what felt like an eternity, he just stared at us. His eyes were cold, analytical. He was weighing my story, dissecting every micro-expression of fear on our faces. The empty street around us felt like a vacuum, sucking all the sound and safety out of the world. And then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a thin, humorless curve of the lips that didn't reach his eyes. It was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. "All right then," he said, his tone deceptively light. "You boys have a good night, and be careful where you turn around." He tapped the roof of my car twice with his palm thump a sound that felt like a period at the end of a terrifying sentence. Then he turned and walked back to his truck. We sat there, paralyzed, until he pulled away and disappeared into the now conveniently reappearing traffic. We never went to the movies that night. We just drove to a well-lit parking lot and sat in silence, trying to process what had happened. The coincidence was too perfect. The immediate appearance, the aggressive chase, the suddenly empty streets. He wasn't a security guard. His truck wasn't marked. His demeanor wasn't that of someone protecting private property. It was that of someone guarding a secret. To this day, more years later than I care to admit, that house remains exactly as it was. An unfinished shell on a valuable piece of land. No construction, no sale, no development. It just sits there. I'm convinced it was, and maybe still is, the front for something. A drug operation, a stash house, something that required a remote, inconspicuous location, and a very visible, very intimidating deterrent. We weren't just scared off by a grumpy landowner. We had accidentally peeled back a corner of our quiet town and seen the dark, hidden machinery operating just beneath the surface. And we were lucky. So incredibly lucky that a flimsy lie and a pair of terrified teenage faces were enough to make that machinery let us go.
Don't want to lose this channel and always be up to date with new videos? Then make sure to subscribe. The story continues, and it's only getting more interesting.